Hello, I'm Janice and I hope you're all doing well. So I have a few cans of canned tuna just lying around the kitchen, and typically, I just eat this stuff out of the can whenever I'm feeling peckish. But surely there has to be a way to, elevate this dish, and in today's video we're going to see how many different types of dishes that we can make with just canned tuna. So without further ado, let's dive right in. The first item on this list is my #1 go-to item at any Japanese convenience stores. Like every time I go to Japan, I have at least like 5 of these. And that is the tuna mayo onigiri. So this is all you're gonna need for your tuna mayo onigiri. So get your rice cooking first so that we can do everything else while it cooks. I used about a cup of rice and that's enough for about 4 to 5 onigiris. Open up your can of tuna. Then get your can of tuna out and try to avoid any of the tuna water getting into your bowl. Then try to flake it apart so that we don't see any tuna chunks. That looks about right. And then we add a bit of soy sauce to it and mix it together, continuing to flake the tuna apart. Then get some mayo, but not just any mayo, the Japanese mayo, and put about 2 tablespoons of mayo into your can of tuna and start mixing it in as well. I added a tad bit more because I like this mayo. And once thoroughly mixed in, get yourself a piece of nori sheet and split it into thirds. This is what we'll be using to wrap our rice ball around. So with our 3 seaweed sheets prepped, we move on to making our tuna mayo rice ball. This is my absolute favorite filling for onigiris, and I got myself a rice mold from Daiso. So you first fill up the base of the mold with rice, and once that's done, you fill up the sides with rice as well so that you cover up all the surface area. Then we put our tuna mayo filling, and the great thing about making this yourself is that you can put as much of it as you want. Cover this up with more rice, and once there are no gaps, you close the mold and squeeze it together. Make sure you give it a really good tight squeeze, and once you've squeezed it together enough, gently take it out of the mold. It looks beautiful, but we aren't done yet. Take a piece of your pre-cut nori sheet and trim it if you need to, then wrap it around your rice ball, and there we have it, your very own homemade tuna mayo onigiri, assembled in less than 5 minutes. Anyway, taste test time. Alright, the first dish on this list is completed, the tuna mayo onigiri, my absolute love from any Japanese convenience store. Okay, let's give it a taste. It tastes so similar to the ones that I have in Japan. If only I used sushi rice, this would be like pretty much the same. This is so delicious. I think I'm gonna add even more filling next time because it's up to me. I can add as much filling as I want. But yes, this is amazing. On to the next thing. Now I love rice and I try to bring rice into the picture whenever I can, and the next item on this list has a lot to do with rice. So if you have a can of tuna and you're looking for something more substantial, you might consider this. So this is what you're gonna need for your kimchi tuna fried rice. Sounds different, but it tastes pretty good. So we start with dicing up a couple cloves of garlic, then dice up half an onion before taking some kimchi and dicing that up too. I just eyeballed the amount I needed, so around this amount. Yeah, I just roughly chopped it up. Then grab a couple spring onions and dice that up too. And that's the extent of our prep. Put a pan on and put some oil in, then grab your chopped garlic, onions, spring onions, and give it a good stir. Then add in your chopped kimchi and give that a good stir too. Then open up your can of tuna, drain some of the liquid out, and then pour it into your pan. Next up, add in your rice. I mentioned in a previous video the best type of rice for fried rice is one that's been left in the fridge overnight because it's nicer to cook with and it's got a better texture. Once you've broken apart the rice and there aren't any lumps or clumps, add in half a teaspoon of gochujang, which is a Korean chili paste that I got at a Korean grocer, half a tablespoon of soy sauce, and half a tablespoon of sesame oil before giving it a really good stir. Add some sesame seeds if you want. If you don't like it, you don't have to. Then add the rest of your spring onions, Give it a good stir before plating. Then wipe your pan down, add some oil and reheat it so that you can cook up an egg sunny side up. And there we have it, a beautiful bowl of kimchi tuna fried rice with some additional sesame, spring onions, and I chopped up some leftover seaweed from the tuna onigiri and sprinkled some on top. And here we have a tuna kimchi fried rice for two. It's not too spicy, which is how I like it, but if you want it to be more spicy, you can definitely add a lot more of the spicy paste to the rice. Oh, and you can also use the spicy tuna tin cans instead of just the plain tuna ones as well. This is very, very good. But the runny yolk, as it spreads over the rice, it's amazing. And give it a go if you want to make something more substantial with your can of tuna. I think you'll like it. And the next dish on this list is perfect for summer and also pretty good for today because it is a little bit hotter here in Sydney today. It is the Mediterranean tuna pasta salad, and this is what you need. This salad is made up of avo, red onions, tomatoes, olives, cucumber, pasta, and of course tuna. I'll talk about the dressing later. Honestly, there isn't too much cooking in this, but here we go. Firstly, set up a pot of water on the stove so that it boils while we cut up all the ingredients. Then we start with a cucumber. Cut the ends off. I was taught that doing this made the cucumber less bitter. Then slice it in half and chop it up like this. Then we chop up the cherry tomatoes like so, and then the red onions. I diced them up pretty finely, but that's just my personal preference. You can leave them at a larger size if you want. Then we do the same to olives. Chop up some olives and then slice open our avo. Look at how beautiful this avo is. Next, add a 1/4 cup of pasta to your water and let it cook. And once it's cooked, take it out, and while it's cooling, you can start assembling your salad. Open up your can of tuna, drain the liquid and flake it into your bowl. Then add your cucumber, cherry tomatoes, red onions, olives, your slightly cooled pasta, and then your avocados. I think it looks really pretty as is. I mean, look at the colors. Okay, before I obsess over this too much, let's make the dressing, which is also very simple. Slice a lemon in half and squeeze as much juice as possible. I forgot to catch the seeds, so I have to flick it out after the fact. There we go. Then we add some chives, a couple teaspoons of red wine vinegar, a couple teaspoons of olive oil, and give it a good stir. Add a tad bit of pepper and salt, and we are pretty much done. Spoon your dressing into your salad and give it a really good mix so that everything touches each other. And there we have it, our tuna pasta salad done in less than 15 minutes. This is enough for 2 people, but if you're really hungry, just have the whole bowl to yourself. This is really delicious. It's perfect as a meal or as a snack, or if you need to bring a dish to someone's house, this is also perfect, I think. So I am going to eat this and then we'll move on to our next dish on this list. Be right back. Now, if you're in between meals and you're feeling peckish and you want a snack, but you don't really want to eat tuna out of a can, tuna fish cakes might be a good option. This is what you need. You need chives, parsley, lemon, an egg, Dijon mustard, potatoes, and olive oil. Start by bringing a pot of water to boil, and while you're waiting for this to heat up, peel your potatoes. These 3 potatoes is enough to make about 6 to 7 fish cakes. We're cooking these potatoes so that we can mash them up later. Anyway, by the time it's all peeled, your water will have boiled so that you can pop these in. Then open up your can of tuna and pour it into your bowl. You don't really need to drain the liquid for this dish. And to your tuna, add a teaspoon of Dijon mustard, a handful of chopped chives, and a handful of coarsely chopped parsley, and another teaspoon of Dijon mustard because I felt like it wasn't enough. Squeeze in some lemon juice, add in some pepper, and before you know it, our potatoes are done. So make sure they are cooked through because it makes it so much easier to mash. Add some butter to your potatoes and start mashing and mashing until they have the consistency of smooth mashed potatoes. Add some pepper, mash it some more, and then we turn our attention back to the original tuna mixture. Scoop in your potatoes and start mixing it through and keep doing it until all your potatoes are in. taste test it to see if you need to add any more pepper or salt or Dijon mustard or lemon juice. And once you're happy with the flavors, crack in an egg and mix thoroughly. Then heat up your pan, and once it's hot enough, shape the tuna, potato and egg mixture into a patty-like formation and gently put it into your pan and let it sizzle. Give it about 3 to 4 minutes and then flip it on to the other side and let that side cook for another 3 to 4 minutes as well. Then take it out of the pan, add some additional chives and serve with a wedge of lemon. Or tartar sauce if you want, I just didn't have any at home. This tastes really good. If there was some way I can make the outsides even crunchier, this would taste even more amazing. But okay, I'm gonna finish the rest of this and I'm gonna let other people taste test my tuna fish cakes to see if they think the same as me. And after that, we will move on to the next item on this list. And the next item on this list is seemingly very simple, but still extremely delicious. It's something that I used to bring to school as a school lunch quite a bit, but it always tasted a lot better fresh than when it's been sitting in your school bag for a few hours. It is the tuna salad sandwich. Now this is what you're gonna need for your sandwich, and this one has no cooking involved at all, just chopping and assemble. Start by draining your canned tuna and then flaking it into a bowl. Then dice up a stalk of celery, a teaspoon of chives, a quarter of a red onion. This onion was especially strong and many tears were shed when cutting it. Then add some pepper, some salt, a tablespoon of mayo, a teaspoon of Dijon mustard, and then give it a good mix. I tasted it and added another teaspoon of Dijon mustard to it, and it was really tasty. Then get yourself a piece of bread. I used just one because I wasn't too hungry. And place a piece of butter lettuce as your base so that the bread doesn't get too soggy, and then you layer your tuna filling on top. And there we have it, the tuna and salad sandwich. I think I put way too much filling in this one because I got too excited. This is perfect. This is delicious. If you're stuck on lunch ideas and you just want to make something really quick, you can't go wrong with a tuna salad sandwich. Providing you like tuna. Because I know that some people don't like tuna. When I was younger and I brought tuna to school, people used to like run away from me and I had to eat lunch alone because they didn't like the smell of it. But I love tuna, and so I love this. Alright, on to the next canned tuna dish on this list. And next up on this list is something that I personally don't eat a lot because I can't have a lot of cheese, but it is a very popular dish and it does look delicious, and that is the tuna pasta bake. And instead of normal cheese, what I've got is, I've gotten a pack of dairy-free cheese. It is vegan cheese, and I actually got this. It smells like, kind of like cheese. We'll be adding this to our tuna pasta bake and we'll see, how well it melts. Anyway, these are the ingredients that you're gonna need. So this is what you're gonna need. I would use normal cheese if I could, but anyway. Start by preheating the oven to 200 degrees and we start prepping the ingredients. Chop up half an onion and a couple cloves of garlic. Then heat up a pan with some oil, and once it's hot enough, add your onions, your garlic, and a can of canned tomatoes. I decided to add an additional tomato because I love them, but you don't have to. Then add a teaspoon of tomato paste, a teaspoon of sugar, and let it just cook and simmer for a little bit. Add a few basil leaves and then add in your can of tuna. As you're letting this cook and simmer for a little bit, put on another pot of water because we're going to be cooking up some pasta. Once the pasta is all cooked up, add it to your tomato tuna sauce mix and give it a really good stir before pouring it onto a tray so that we can bake it in the oven. There wasn't enough to fill up the whole tray, so I'm just gonna congregate it into just half of the tray. Add a good amount of cheese, some additional basil leaves, and then put this in the oven for 20 minutes. Look, I ended up leaving this in the oven for another 10 minutes because the vegan cheese just wasn't melting at all. This is what it looks like in the end. It smelled pretty good. There wasn't like a cheesy smell though. Anyway, taste test time. All right, let's Let's try this, shall we? The cheese, I mean, some of the ones underneath it kind of melted, but the ones at the top, it just sort of hardened. Okay, here's what I think. The actual flavors in the pasta with the tuna tomato sauce, that tastes really, really good. And I think I would have been really happy with it just out of the pan when I was cooking it and without having to put it in the oven. I think that if you just used normal cheese, it would melt and there would be like crusts on the top. It would taste delicious. For some reason, my cheese didn't melt properly, so it just wasn't as good as it could be. So if you were to use like normal cheese, I think this would be delicious and this would work out really, really well. So I still like it. I still like the pasta because it just tastes like how it was when I was cooking it in the pan. But I probably wouldn't use this cheese again unless I'm doing it wrong. If you know how I can make this vegan cheese melt, please let me know, because this doesn't look like what it looked like in the packaging. It's still quite stiff at the top. Alright, I'm going to finish the rest of this off. If you have any other canned tuna recipes, or if you have a good like vegan cheese recommendation, please let me know in the comments below. I post new videos every week, so check them out if you have time. Have an amazing rest of the week, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!
Get out, you're on camera. You're on camera.
I'm not on camera. What are you doing? How is it?
It's good.
Did it taste like the ones in Japan or not?
No. Tuna's too dry.
What?
Tuna's too dry, you need more mayo.
Okay.